As MC, I'll get us started and then try to stay mostly out of the way, as the stars of this evening and in fact the entire weekend are the filmmakers and their delightful productions. This year we had 54 films submitted, 32 officially selected to be fully judged and screened. This included short films from all over the U.S., as well as Canada, Switzerland, India, Australia, Hungary, Belgium, and that budding hotbed of movie magic, Albania. Yes, Ethnophobia, the animated one, if you saw that, from an Albanian director. However, there continues to be remarkable and recognized filmmaking talent right here. In fact, almost half of the films that qualified for the screening this year were from Oregon directors, including several from Yamhill County. Now, before we get to these beauties down here, I want to make sure and acknowledge many of the people who made this year's festival possible. They deserve our gratitude. I'm going to start with our sponsors. They include the Gallery at 10 Oaks, Ronnie LaCroute, Chemeketa Community College, the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, Wings and Waves Water Park, Oregon Media Production Association and Oregon Film, Recology, Your Space Storage, and our good friends across the parking lot here who for the past 4 years have hosted this event, Coming Attractions Theaters. We also received several grants to help fund the festival, including those from the Yamhill County Cultural Coalition, Oregon Cultural Trust, and the Oregon Community Foundation. And we have members of the Film Festival Foundation and several in-kind donors as well who contributed some of the tasty beverages you've been enjoying and other goodies. So we appreciate their contributions. Thank you. Today, we continued our educational series with several successful local members of the film industry who shared their knowledge and talents, and we're grateful for that. That included Ben Popp, A.J. Gordon, and Jason Rosenblatt, who are directors who won awards in last year's festival here. Screenwriter Joan Macbeth and actress Stevie Jackson. So thank you for your time and talent. We also have our keynote speaker, Janice Williams, who you'll hear more about in a few moments. We have several guest judges who were involved in the evaluation and scoring of the films, and also several volunteers who helped with taking tickets, ushering, and helping us set up here for the dinner this evening. That includes Dan Homeris, Spencer Bacon, Ian Pallow, our photographer, and Roger King. So thank you, gentlemen, for your service. And Jerry on the camera. Jerry. From MCM Channel 11 Media here in McMinnville. But of course, the lifeblood of this weekend are the remarkable filmmakers, their producers, actors, editors, photographers, and the rest of their crews. So thank you for sharing your talents and entertaining us this weekend. For the entire past 10 months, there's been a McMinnville Film Festival Foundation board that's been planning for this event. And their names are shown here. And finally, this festival would not exist and be the success it is today without the passion and vision of the founders, Dan and Nancy Morrow. Thank you, Dan and Nancy. You're welcome. Now, before we announce the nominees and the awards, I'm delighted to introduce our keynote speaker for the evening. Janice Williams is an Emmy-nominated producer who joined Groundswell Productions in 2007 and now serves as their president of production. She is also on the board of the Oregon Media Production Association. Janice recently executive produced the Emmy-nominated film Confirmation, starring Kerry Washington as Anita Hill and Wendell Pierce as Clarence Thomas for HBO Films. Also produced the 2016 Academy Award-nominated Trumbo, directed by Jay Roach and starring Bryan Cranston and Diane Lane. And Love the Coopers, directed by Jesse Nelson and starring Diane Keaton and Alan Arkin. And there is a whole list of well-known and Oscar-nominated films that Janice was involved in producing. She was born and raised in Glasgow, Scotland. Sorry, that was terrible. I just can't help. I just love the accent. I had to say it. She lives full-time here in Portland, I discovered this evening, which is wonderful. And after graduating from college, she started her career in music, working for 7 years with singer Mick Jagger. I bet there are a lot of stories there. She began her filmmaking career in 1996 in the UK with acclaimed British producer Brian Eastman of Shadowlands, and eventually went to New York and was the production manager on 3 Woody Allen films, among many others. Finally, it says here that Janice spent some time on the hidden island of Themyscira, has a flaming whip, and kicks ass on Greek gods, too. Wow, that's impressive. Please welcome Janice Williams.
Thank you, Jeff. So I was going to tell you some of that. So we'll kind of score through some of those things. So before I start, I just wanted to say how delighted I am to be here talking to this group today. And I want to thank Nancy and Dan for inviting me to speak at the McMinnville Short Film Festival. Those of you who are looking to work full-time in film and TV will be on many different paths in your careers. And it's with shorts that many people get started in the business. A lot of people have broken through by showing some of these skills and what they're capable of through the short film medium. These shorts are put together often without any outside help or resources, and this makes the creation of them even more impressive than for those working within the mainstream industry. So in trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about today, I kept coming back to 2 things. Talk about what I know, and talk about paths to getting there. So I taught on the film and TV producing program at UCLA as an industry lecturer for a couple of years, and students were always commenting that they enjoyed what I talked about when I gave sort of very specific and personal details. So hopefully you'll feel the same way. Now I will mention some aspects of producing on TV, but mostly I'm going to concentrate on the producing of feature films. And I'm going to play a couple of trailers. I hope this works, because we just kind of pulled them up on YouTube and we're hoping that it all works. So this first one is for a film called The Final Girls that I produced about 3 or 4 years ago.
Bloodbath is the granddaddy of all campsite slasher films. Max's mom plays Nancy, this shy girl next door.
Nice legs. What time they open?
It's cool you get to remember your mom this way.
At least I get to see her on the anniversary of her death, even if she is being chased by a psycho.
Guys, somebody's coming.
Hey, do you guys know the way to Camp Bluefinch?
Tina! So, we're in the movie.
Oh, hi. What's your name? Max. Best summer ever!
Anyone want to help me pick some strawberries?
Nope, but I'll give you a hand with those melons. Talking about her boobs.
The writing is so bad.
What is that noise?
It's Billy. He's coming. Everyone who has sex in this movie dies. It's awesome.
No sex.
Run! Wait. Selfie time. Shoot!
How do we get out of here?
Movies like this end when the final girl kills the bad guy and the credits roll.
That's Paula. That's the final girl. We just have to stay with her till the end of the movie.
Oops.
I want to know where they keep the hardware. I want chainsaws and big-ass knives, and I want them now.
Guys? What's happening? Why am I colorblind? Am I having a stroke?
We're in a flashback.
Wonder if all this blood is just corn syrup, you know? Like these characters are walking around with just corn syrup in their veins. Oh, no. Oh, God, that's blood.
I know in the movie you're supposed to die, but that doesn't mean you have to, right?
What do we do now? We fight. What's happening? It's slow motion.
So that's an example of a film I never thought I would produce. That's really the kind of film that I make. So how did I become a film producer? So by accident, I think, is the real answer. As you have already heard from Jeff, I grew up in Glasgow, Scotland. And other than writing a novel about witches and a play about the Spanish Armada when I was 8 years old, I had absolutely no access to the creative world. It was always going to be what my mum was, a teacher. And growing up, I had no idea that there were actual careers to pursue in the creative arts. So it just never crossed my mind. After 4 years of college, I lost the desire to be a teacher and decided I wanted to explore the wider world and became determined to head to London to find my real calling. And I applied for almost any starter job that there was advertised. And the only response I got was from two guys who were in a band called Landscape, who had just had a very huge hit in Europe with a song called Einstein a Go-Go, an absolute classic. And they brought me to London to assist them. Eventually, they both became very successful record producers, and I was managing them in London. And then I went to LA for a couple of years to sign people to manage there. I came back from LA pretty disillusioned and ready to quit the music business, but I got a call from a friend to meet with Mick Jagger, who was looking for someone to run his setup, and this started a 7-year association with him and the Rolling Stones. During this time, Mick was asked to act in a film called Free Jack, and I joined him in Atlanta for the shoot. And this new experience had two huge benefits for me. First and foremost, I met the love of my life, my husband, Tim Williams. He is now the executive director of Oregon Film, which is the state film and media office, and he's here tonight. And secondly, I also fell in love with the art of filmmaking, big time. So Mick and I started a film company that still exists today called Jagged Films, and we hired someone in LA to run that. We started developing material, and I kept thinking, this is my chance, I'm going to make a film. So flying to Paris one day to meet Mick and another producer for a possible film early in our company's existence, my education in producing consisted of me skimming through a book called The Idiot's Guide to Film Producing on the very lengthy 50-minute flight from London to Paris. Very in-depth training. I know you'll be proud. And then one day it actually hit me like a truck. If I stayed working with Mick, I would not be making any films because I was not the film person, I'm the music person. So at that point, I made the very painful decision to leave and start from scratch again to work in this amazing world of film. So that wasn't a particularly easy task for me in London. I didn't know anyone in the business there. I had no personal skills at all in film to sell. But what I did have was I had an interesting resume. And it did get me in the door with a very successful UK film producer at the time, a guy called Brian Eastman. And he was looking for someone to cover for his assistant when she left for 6 months maternity leave. So I was giving up a very lucrative career with Mick Jagger to go and do a maternity leave cover making tea. So anyway, at least I was in, and the first thing I realized was that I didn't have any actual experience in film and TV, but what I had learned in the music business up to that point was an amazing bed of knowledge to build from. Dealing with big creative personalities, understanding the value of communication, and knowing what the creative process felt like, whether it was in a different medium or not. Which is all to say that skills we all need to succeed in the film world may be skills we know from other careers and experiences, and learning how to market those skills is vitally important. So from this starting point, I made my way in London and New York through the world of production, first as a coordinator and then as a production manager. And in every job, I strived to go above and beyond the normal expectations for no other reason than that was what I expected of myself. And it gave results. So from a small indie film in New York called Company Man, my extra efforts were noticed by someone who worked with Woody Allen, and she suggested to his team that they hire me. And I worked with Woody on his next 4 films. I took what I first thought was a backward step from production managing when I agreed to coordinate a Robert De Niro film called Hide and Seek. In addition to the coordination work, the executive producer soon had me scheduling the film, approving payroll, and being his second in command. It was here that I first heard crews saying I had the makings of a film producer and the seed was planted. Tim and I next moved to LA, where I was determined to become a film executive. And of course, I had no idea what that actually meant. And I had no real idea of how to make it happen either. And then someone I knew from New York had become president of a company that I am now president at, Groundswell Productions. And she approached me to come and run physical production. And just like when I got my first short-term film job, I really had no idea what being a physical production person meant. But I managed to persuade the head of the company, Michael London, who is now my full producing partner, that I could handle it. And somehow he believed me. I should also mention at this point that the friend who brought me into that company is Bruna Papandrea, who produced Wild, which of course was shot in Oregon and was an amazing film with Reese Witherspoon by a book from Cheryl Strayed. And she's just cleaned up at the Emmys with her HBO series, Big Little Lies. So that was over 10 years ago, and I survived a revolving door of creative executives, many of whom I would be asked to go in and take over for. And all the while, I was not receiving the proper credit for the work I did while others did. After 4 years of this, I finally decided it was time to take the credit I'd been earning all this time and made it clear that I wouldn't go into a producing job without getting the proper credit anymore, and this started my producing partnership for the last 6 years. Throughout this period, I've produced over 10 films, working on small films such as Nightlight, which was a $2 million non-union supernatural film produced in Utah. And I just, today actually, finished shooting a £3 million film in London called Farming, which is an autobiographical story. It speaks to themes of identity, race, and belonging, which feels especially relevant today. I've worked on large commercial studio films such as Love the Coopers, large indies such as Milk and Birth of the Dragon, and smaller indies like Trumbo and the Final Girls. I've also produced some TV series and an HBO film for HBO called Confirmation. The TV series were Astronaut's Wife Club and The Magicians. But ultimately, I think my heart really lies in film. So what does all this history have to do with you and the prospective producers among you? My hope is that this personal journey shows you that there are all sorts of paths to achieving your dreams and goals. My path was not short. It took me many, many years to become a producer. And while having a formal education at film school is not a necessity, what is essential is to hone your skills, work harder than you think whatever job you're doing merits, work outside your comfort zone and outside your own position, and do everything aiming for excellence. Whether you think anyone will notice or not, always push yourself. So how to show off your skills and work ethic? There are so many different entry points, but what are these specifically here in Oregon? Perhaps like me, you come up through the ranks working in production. One thing that's different to when I was trying to break in is the proliferation of digital media, which means that the creation of content without industry aid is much more affordable. Just go out there and produce something, which many of you have already done, evidenced by the wonderful shorts at this film festival. The finding and development of material is, of course, paramount. It all starts with material. So think about what kind of stories you want to tell, whether there's a book you can option, or you have a friend who can write a script, or you read something that gives you some kind of starting point. Look for more out-of-the-box ways to try out your producing skills and build a resume and reel. Can you produce some content for a non-profit organization or for a friend with a startup company? Develop relationships with writers, with directors, with up-and-coming talent looking to break in, and develop material and ideas together. Network whenever possible to find other like-minded people. I'm on the board of the OMPA, as Jeff mentioned, and I'm certainly not going to be coy about encouraging you all to join. and utilize the many networking and educational activities, the networking opportunities that this organisation puts together. I've been lucky enough to work in a wide range of film genres, from biographical, horror comedy, rom-com, and even kung fu. Although I think most people think of me as primarily producing true stories such as Confirmation and Trumbo. Part of the beauty of working on different types of films is what you learn on each new project. I had no idea how much was involved in choreographing our various Bruce Lee fight sequences, for example, until we started working on this in prep and Birth of the Dragon. And I hadn't really thought about how much fun that was actually going to be. When I worked on We Own the Night, one of James Gray's early films, I'd never worked in a big car chase sequence before. Again, a lot to be learned from doing new things. And I think at this point, if you can put on the Birth of the Dragon trailer. Thank you.
You boys done playing? This is Kung Fu. You're not training for the Olympics. You're training for the street. Action!
Master Bruce Lee!
Wong Jack Man, he's leaving the Shaolin Temple to check out Kung Fu in America.
People in Chinatown don't like that I teach whites. Shaolin sent Wong Jack Man to spy on me. He may be the only person in this world who can tear down everything and I've been working so hard to build up. Sooner or later, gonna have to fight him.
What does Sifu Li teach you?
He teaches us to kick ass.
Kick ass? Your technique is impressive. But it has one limitation.
What?
You.
I'm the future. You're the past. You're irrelevant, Wong. Fight me.
I will accept your challenge.
Raised up from the ashes, never doubt us now. A new face for this next generation.
No rules. No whole spot.
No limits. You guys kill each other.
Now you begin to exceed your limits.
What limits? Ever show you my one-inch punch, Tony?
Another film I never thought I would produce. So now I want to talk about what producing actually is. And the first couple of things to say is it's not just one thing, and no two producers are alike or even cover the same kind of range. There are also different specific types of producer, but what I'm talking about today is the producer. I'm not really talking about things like executive producers or line producers, but maybe I think there'll be a Q&A at the end. Happy to answer any questions about what those are at the end. Having said that, the executive producer credit is very different on film and in TV. So in TV, the executive producer title is held for those on the creative side of the show. So it's the creator, the main writers, other creative producers who've been instrumental in the development and the making of the show. So that's more equivalent to the producer credit in feature films. So a feature producer can be many things, with some of the headlines of what this job entails, including, number one, finding and developing the material. That's where it all starts. For example, the Birth of the Dragon idea, which you just saw, it came from an article written in 1980 about the long disputed fight between Bruce Lee and Wong Jack Man. And we developed a script from that article with the fight as the central theme, and then we put together a totally fableized version of events surrounding it. Number two, so-called packaging of the project, which essentially means adding talent that could get the film made or financed, whether this is a director, cast, star, cinematographer, or a combination of these. So our path to green light on a film often rests on a bankable actor or actress becoming publicly attached. So in Trumbo, for example, the attachments of both Bryan Cranston and Helen Mirren, as well as director Jay Roach, brought the financing. Number 3, figuring out a possible path to production through a basic template of where to make the film, what kind of value the film might have in the marketplace, which in turn gives you an idea of what the budget of the film should be. So this number will be affected by the level of packaging of your project. Obviously, a well-known and bankable actor or actress will increase your budget, since people will likely be willing to give you a higher level of finance with so-called star talent. We talked about the packaging aspect, but figuring out where to shoot your film to access a tax credit is usually an essential part of the financing strategy. Essentially, if you have a film that has a gross budget of $14 million and you shoot it in a tax credit state or country, that brings your net budget down to, let's just throw out a number, for example, of $11 million. So you're essentially getting an extra $3 million on the screen through what is termed soft money. In other words, you get to make a $14 million film for $11 million. I chose New Orleans to shoot Trumbo in for this reason, even though the film was set in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. Similarly, Birth of the Dragon is set in San Francisco and China, and while we did shoot a small number of days in each of these places, we shot the bulk of the film in Vancouver, BC. Number 4, finding a way to get the film made through selling to a studio, independent financing company, accessing film tax credits, and looking at different possible patterns for release, such as theatrical, VOD, or other digital platforms. There's also, not that this is a subject I know a lot about, but there are definitely self-release models nowadays for smaller films. Number 5, once a film is greenlit, you have to produce the actual film itself. So then you're working closely with the director, the financiers or studio, the cast, line producer, and other crew members to bring the best version of the film to life. The producing of the film is then split into 3 parts once it's greenlit: prep, shoot, and post. So this part of producing in itself is a mammoth list of activities, and just for prep can include some or all of sourcing talented heads of department, including line producer, DP, etc., casting of the film, figuring out where you're filming, accessing soft money, developing the look of the film with the director and financiers, which can be, the look of cinematography, the production design, choice of locations, etc., etc. On Trumbo, I worked very closely with the hair, makeup, and costume departments to design looks for depicting real people in our script, like Kirk Douglas. To expand a bit on the term green lit, not everybody necessarily knows what that is, but this is something, it's generally a single process on studio film, and it's the, being told you get to make your film now. Studios, they decide they're going to make the film, and that's what happens. On an indie film, it's not so cut and dried. Your access to the actual financing and cash flow may happen in several different phases, and at each phase, it's possible that the film stumbles and doesn't get made. And on Farming, which I just finished and just got back from London, we weren't even sure if our financing would actually close right up until 2 days before we started shooting, so a bit of a stressful process to say the least. For the shoot, the producer often has oversight of the creative aspects of the day-to-day shooting, as well as of the line producer and the responsibilities to the financing plan. In post-production, after a director has had their exclusive cut time, the producer works together with the director and financiers to hone the cut of the film to best represent the creative vision, together with marketplace realities such as who's your audience, what rating are you looking for, what aspects of storytelling work better than others. It's not unusual to go through double-digit numbers of cuts, with small screenings and full large-scale audience previews happening throughout this process. Producers are also often involved in music, both original score and choice of existing songs and tracks used in the film. So in Lola Versus, the director and I wanted the score to come from someone who had a band sensibility, so we hired a group called Fall on Your Sword to create a whole musical landscape for our character that Greta Gerwig played. On All Good Things, we wanted a rich, large, orchestral feeling to the score, but we didn't have the budget to travel to one of the really big European orchestras. So we figured out how to do this remotely, with myself and the composer hooked up in an LA studio at 3 a.m. to a huge live orchestra in Prague. Music can enhance a film in a way that's hard to overstate. It is as important a choice as who the star of the film is. It adds levels of emotion, gravity, comedy that may not exist within the footage shot. Other than more technical aspects of post-production, such as sound design, which is another incredible tool, there's visual effects, color work, and there are probably also marketing materials that you have a say in. The teaser, the trailer, the poster, the press, etc. And then, of course, there's the release strategy, which producers sometimes do and sometimes don't have a say in. So these are some of the main headings of what producing can entail. Not all producers do all of these things. Some are more adept at the development of material. Some are much more savvy about the actual mechanics of filmmaking. Some are marketing experts, and some have great relationships with agents who, at the end of the day, control the material and the talent, which is vital. One of the benefits of working in a producing partnership is that we probably cover a lot more of these bases than most individual producers. In my own partnership, Michael's main skills are in material development and agent, talent, and financing relationships, while mine run to the actual filmmaking, handling, and working with talent on set and in post-production. On Love the Coopers, with almost 10 A-list actors, much of my job was just the constant management of the cast and keeping them happy and focused, which was not easy. On the film I just wrapped in London, Farming, working with a first-time director, my main focus was in supporting the director's vision, helping him to get the most out of the cast and crew to capture that on camera. Forming lasting partnerships can be the best solution, not only to getting films made, but to keeping your creative edge fresh. Partnerships with directors, writers, producers, and other crew members. So I hope all of this information, my own story, has helped give us a better understanding of what producing is and some possible paths to become a producer. I feel it's something of a vocation rather than a great way to make money, since a producer can be developing a project for years with no remuneration. But if your heart is set on this and you have the talent and work ethic, this can be a truly satisfying role in the world of filmmaking. I want to leave you with one last thing. I was asked to also talk about being a female producer, and I've thought long and hard about this, especially in light of the recent downfall of Harvey Weinstein, which I feel most people in the country at this point have heard about. I actually made a film with Harvey through his actions of sexual assault and sexual harassment, and I expect there are many more revelations to come out about his behavior, as well as many other men in the industry, which actually has been happening as of today. The truth is that it is more difficult for women in positions of power in the business. People are more familiar at the moment with the movement to improve the percentages of female directors, but it is an issue across the board in film and TV. I'm a big proponent of trying to increase the number of female producers, since that means we are in the hiring rooms and can make a difference by ensuring that there are always women on lists of directors, cinematographers, etc. For example, I've been producing a new series for Showtime called SMILF, and we have only hired female directors. The more women the more women there are in these roles, the more the culture will change. I have absolutely been discriminated against in terms of my credit, my fees, and the level of respect I receive because of my gender. And this is still happening, even on the film I'm currently producing. So outing Harvey Weinstein has not eradicated and will not eradicate the problem. I believe I have to work harder and better than most male producers at every turn, and I am constantly astonished at some of the language used about women's abilities. It's up to every single person in the film and TV business and beyond to change the culture, both men and women, crew of all departments and ranks, whether director, third grip, truck driver, production manager. We all need to work towards and promote respect regardless of gender, race, sexual orientation, or other points of bias. And at that point, I'm going to play a trailer for a film I made called Confirmation, which was about the Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas hearings, which, of course, very much address these issues. Thanks.
Professor Hill, Judge Thomas, please stand to be sworn in.
During the fall of 1982, Judge Thomas began to use work situations to discuss sex. I could not keep silent.
Is it true? Is the story true?
I deny every allegation against me today that suggested that I, in any way, ever, harassed Anita Hill. This is a circus, national disgrace. And from my standpoint, It's a high-tech lynching.
This is political theater, and Thomas just performed.
He is not
trying
the
to say that.
victim. My friends' jobs are being threatened. My reputation is ruined.
I'm a black man in America. This is a very different thing for me. I treated her the same way I treat other people.
It's nonsense. Maybe someone is putting her up to this.
Buckle up your guts, pal.
How could you allow this sort of reprehensible conduct to go on?
I was afraid of retaliation.
Why would you ever speak to a man like that the rest of your life?
This president has total faith in his nominee.
You're not gonna believe this. There's another woman.
We need to depose her.
You got me bringing up a bunch of bogus dirt. Stop it.
Why are you doing this?
Because I believe you.
I had to tell the truth.
So that's it. Thank you all for your time, and if anyone has any questions, you can take them now. Yeah.
Thanks, Janice. I think I speak for everybody here regarding the last 2 minutes of your talk. We're all fully supportive of that, 100%. My question is more general. When I go to the movies, I stay to watch the credits. And the credits roll by. Sometimes it's a big picture and it goes on for a long time. There's names and names. And invariably, I always think, all those people made it. They're in. They're the masters. They're the pros. Is this the case, or is there more, like most of these people are, a lot of these people are in training, or are learning, or are interns? Can you shed a little light on the demography of credits?
Yeah. So, and I think it very much depends on what kind of film it is. If it's a $200 million studio film, I would say there's going to be very few people in the credits who are in training. If it's, $1 million indie film, then there's probably a lot of people who are at the start of their careers and who are learning their trade as they go. I mean, the truth of the matter is everybody is learning their trade as they go. There's no such thing as knowing it all and, okay, now I know it all and that's it. I'm good. Everybody is always learning. Obviously, there is a learning curve, and I do think the budget generally speaks to the level of experience, but not always. I mean, I just did a £3 million film in London, and we have probably what I consider to be one of the top editors in the world decided he wanted to do it because he liked the material and he thinks it's a really important story. His name's Tariq Anwar. So, but we also had people who were on their first movie on that film, and I think it's up to everybody to train everybody, and I think part of what training is also about attitude, as I just spoke about in the last piece of that. So I think, credits are just, they're kind of a template thing, to be honest. So the credits that come up at the end, it's a template that a company sends out and you fill it in. It usually has pretty much everybody that works on the film on those credits, whether it be, location manager or a driver or a craft service person. So, the credits don't speak to the level of experience that someone does or doesn't have. Where that delineation is most obvious is the delineation between what's called main title credits and end crawl. Now, of course, sometimes main title credits come at the end, but they're still the same thing. And those main title credits are where things like the director and writer, cinematographer, producer, cast credits come, and they are the sort of star credits of the film. So it's not impossible that somebody on there might be a learner. For example, we have a co-producer on the film I just did that's never worked in a feature film before, and she's going to get a main title credit. But the end crawl, which is the sort of the bulk of the crew and the cast, there's nothing in there particularly that delineates in terms of level of experience, other than, of course, you'll have a department head and then the people under that department head. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, when you see artists and there's like 400 names.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I've always wondered about the level. Is it a certain minimal level of experience, or is it shared? Is it equal, or is it wide?
It's wide, I think, is the straight answer. Again, the width is probably less, the higher the budget of the film. And then, you know, again, at the lower end, the width is probably less. And then in the middle, there'll just be a huge range of very experienced people and people who are essentially apprenticing. And I think it's good that those credits are long, because otherwise it's a bit of a sort of, you know, well, who's more important than other people? Some of it's obvious, some of it's not. So I think it's better to err on the side of giving people their credits, because that's how they get jobs. Pleasure.
Other questions?
How is it different producing for television versus theatrical?
It's very different. So for me, and it may be more different for me than for other producers, because as I said, different producers do different things. I am a very, very hands-on producer. You know, when I'm producing a film, I'm pretty much there every single day from an hour before call, never mind call, until wrap, and all the thousands of emails and meetings over and above that. On a TV show, the person who I would say is the main creative producer is generally called the showrunner. That person may or may not have created the material in the first place. That person may or may not be a main writer in the TV series. But as an executive producer, because that's, you know, that version of that credit in TV. So for example, The Magicians, which I'm an executive producer on. So in the first season, in the pilot, I was pretty instrumental. I figured out, you know, where we were going to shoot. I put together a crew with the showrunner, cast the whole show, and was there a bunch during the shoot. But moving forward, you know, I go for what they call a morale boost twice a season, generally, up to say hi to the cast, and so they feel they've got someone they can come and kind of bitch at. But this is a true story. So the two showrunners took my producing partner and I out to lunch just before we started shooting this third season of Magicians. And, you know, we said, look, what can we do to be more involved? We often don't feel we're that involved. What can we do? And he said, you've done your job. You got the material. You brought it to us. You got it sold. You don't need to do anything else. And of course, we can't quite do that. We can't bring it on ourselves. But, you know, depending on what you are, if you're the creator, you're generally involved most of the time. If you're the showrunner, every decision is yours as the showrunner. There's nothing that you're not asked about. What color should this carpet be? What's this character's arc in season 4? You know, this actor's not working out. How can we kill that person off? You know, so, and then there's a whole bunch of people called executive producers who might do varying levels of work. Some of them might be writers on the current season. Some of them might have been writers on the original season, but are not writers anymore. Might be the director who did the original episodes. I produced a series called Chance. It's in its second season on Hulu. Lenny Abramson, hot off his Oscar nomination for Room, was brought in to direct the first 2 episodes, and he will forevermore have an executive producer credit on that, even though once he directed his episodes, he was off and gone with nothing more to say. So, does that answer at all? So yes, for me, TV, I do what I consider to be very little. I read scripts, I give script notes, I watch cuts, I watch dailies, I watch cuts of each episode, the director's cut, producer's cut, blah, 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 and give notes. And that's pretty much now what my role is. I'll take part in marketing calls, and that's it. Janice?
Yeah, one over here.
Yep.
Hi, here from Vancouver, British Columbia.
Oh, there you go. I know it well.
And just curious in terms of how you choose your projects. It sounds like you're working quite internationally, shooting in Vancouver, shooting in London, shooting in the US. How do you sign on for your projects? How do they come to you and how do you sign on?
So obviously projects come in a variety of ways, but for me, and this speaks to the importance of partnerships, my office is in LA, but I'm not based in LA, but my producing partner is. And he has very strong relationships with agents. And essentially, the agents are kind of the key to it to a certain extent because they control all the material. they are the agents to the people writing it. So the agencies are the ones, and they decide who are we going to send this material to. So of course, if you've had success, especially in certain kinds of material, you will generally be maybe on the first wave of that material coming to you. So it's hard because the people who really need material most, which are the starting people, they're probably not getting a lot of access to it from the agencies, which is why it's so important, therefore, to find material on your own. You know, are there books that maybe are even out of print and that have, or that were optioned for film, but that film never got made? I mean, I'm currently working on a Paulo Coelho book that it's not The Alchemist, but it's still a pretty amazing book of his. I couldn't believe that nobody had optioned it. So a director and I are trying to figure out a way to make this book into a film that will speak to themes of today, even though it's an old book. But you know, there are these amazing books by well-known writers that are lying around, and we will almost certainly not be paying much of anything for the option on that book. So, you know, for us, we generally get material through the agency system, but I think for a lot of people here today, it's just not very useful. But I think that just a lot of it's about taste, to be honest. You know, if you've got good taste in material, no matter what it is, you know, I think we are known as a company with good taste, you know, from Trumbo and Milk. But to be honest, my best reviewed film ever was The Final Girls, which was a crazy horror comedy. Nothing like anything I've ever done, and is not the kind of thing that I would normally expect to come to me from any agents. But, you know, we heard about it through some writers, and we started developing it with those writers. So I think, you know, agencies certainly can help. Just what books, what articles, what stories are there out there that are interesting to you? Because if it's not interesting to you, you're not going to be able to make it interesting to someone else. So, and then is that material available? Can I somehow get it? And a lot of material can be optioned for zero money. I think people are surprised about that. Option lots of things. You know, develop relationships with writers. You know, there are always writers willing to write scripts without a fee. You know, it's called spec. We ourselves are often picking up spec scripts. You know, we don't have, as a very tiny production company, we don't have money to develop scripts and to pay writers, even scale WGA rates. So we're generally picking up spec scripts. So, does that answer? Okay.
You have time for one more?
Thank you. Janice, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your speech today. It was fantastic. And then the question I have for you is, you kind of addressed some really great motivation for people that are kind of already in the industry and kind of looking to move forward. What would you say to this age group? I always drag my daughters to things like this, and if you could say something to them that might motivate them to pursue film, that'd be awesome.
Well, I think what
No pressure.
I think what I'm saying is only pursue film if that's what interests you. If that's what interests your dad and not you, then I don't think it's a very good idea. You know, I think that having access to knowledge about what are possibilities out there, which I feel in my childhood I completely lacked. You know, there was absolutely zero potential that, you know, I could go and study anything to do with a creative. You know, it's like, well, I don't want to be a doctor because I don't like blood, and, you know, my mum's a really great teacher and that looks like fun, and I actually do love teaching now, but, you know, so we'll all do that. But that was kind of, these were the options. So I think, first and foremost, they have to have access to what are the possibilities out there and what are the routes to making those things happen. If filmmaking is something that interests you, not someone else, then honestly, I would say that, I mean, it depends, you know, some people are better as directors, some people better as producers, some people as cinematographers. But I think regardless of which of these aspects of it, pick up a camera. It's so easy to do today. It was, you know, not so easy even if I had even thought to do it. when I was young, but it is an easy thing to do, and it doesn't matter what you make. You can be judged by what you make or not. It's a digital camera, you can put something together, I don't like it, I'm getting rid of it. Or you put something together and it's interesting and you show other people and you start to feel what it's like to get an audience looking at something and giving you voices. You can make something and say, well, I don't really want to be the person who figures out what the story is, but I did like telling all those people what to do. So that might be a producer. Or, you know, I just love the feeling of the words and what that felt like to put together a story. You might want to be a writer. But I honestly think the main thing is, A, you've got to do what you want to do, not what someone else tells you should want to do, and B, just, if that interests you, literally pick up a camera and start making things. You know, you'll create community around you. If you find something that's a passion, you'll create your own community around you. You'll decide, you know, can I? Not everybody even can go to film school. Not everybody has the resources, but do I have the resources to go to film school and can I get in? Do I want to take that route? Or do I want to do something else and just hang out on film sets for a while and see what that feels like? Or do I get a job in the, you know, the bottom rung of the ladder, but watch all these people and figure out what everybody's doing and just learn it from the ground up, so that as you get into different roles, you remember what it is that this person does and how difficult that is, or that they work really long hours, or that they're probably not earning a whole lot of money. So I think all of those things.
We're going to start by recognizing all of the films that made it into the official screening, because just by the very nature of getting to that point, you've demonstrated exceptional quality in storytelling. So I'm going to read the names, and they'll appear up on the screen here in a moment, of the films and the directors, which aren't shown on the screen. And we'll start with the first 6. Skip, directed by Jenna McGilvray. View Mastermind by Robert Schmelzer. Ethnophobia by Joan Jonga. That's the Albanian one. Crown Point by Gary Trindle. The Beast Underneath by Anel Morf and Alexandra Ruffin. And Grip vs. Gaff by Cosmo Spada. Oh, and yes, I should say, we have certificates for all the participants, so if you're here representing one of those films, as we announce, please come up and get your certificate.
We have Cosmo's biggest fan, his dad, here to receive. Cosmo's been part of the film festival since he was 16, and he's now, what, 22? 21. And he is actually in LA for his final semester, learning firsthand filmmaking down there. So.
What?
Oh.
Huh?
The next screen should show the next series of films, starting with The Kenton Lead Blob by Zach Putnam and Richard Percy.
Zach, you have to come up. You don't get to sit down. Thank you. You can sit down.
I Love New York by Christian Vogeler. In Here by James Barton. The First Crush by Josh London. And The Black Cat by Bargov Saika. I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly. Did I?
Yeah.
Okay. And Whoever Was Using This Bed by Andrew Kotatko. The next slide features The Opera Singer by Steve Kahn. Intercept by Randall Johnson. Redemption by Sam Neff. We know Sam too. On Her Lips by Franklin Fuentes. Age of the Blank Hole, Asshole. By Jason Rosenblatt. I tried to censor that for the kids, but it just didn't work. And Scattered by Ellie Harvey. North of Nowhere by Scott Ballard. Nikki by Brian Nelson.
Ballet was really interesting for me once I got into it because it allowed me to exude my femininity. It allowed me to really connect with a lot of things within myself that I wasn't able to necessarily in everyday life. You know, I have a very slight build, and so I'm naturally graceful, but yet the strength that comes from being able to develop lean muscle mass quickly gave me a very unique body type. It allowed me to become much more comfortable with myself and my gender through movement.
Monday by Din Tai. Just Be There by Ula Nagy and Balaz Nitre. I'm sure I butchered that. Litterbugs by Cosmo Spada. Another Cosmo song. Real Artist by Cameo Wood.
A movie is an intricate emotion generation machine. Why do you want to make movies with us?
I never really felt like I had a choice. It's always been my dream to see my imagination on the big screen.
We offer our audiences a perfectly crafted experience.
Is this a test screening?
This is how we make our films.
What do you mean?
A great artist will do whatever it takes to create a great vision, even if it means watching movies in a dark room 365 days a year.
Honestly, Charlotte by Sarah Hadar. And Joan Macbeth and Stevie Jackson are here. That was very funny. Good job.
Okay, Miss
Chandler. But you can call me Charlotte.
What is your greatest strength, Ms. Chandler?
I can type and make spreadsheets and all of that. Anyone can do that. That's not the best thing about me as an employee.
Jazz Talk Radio by Robbie Rittman. Wormholes by Phil Guzzo and a bunch of people.
I doubt it.
Oh boy, you got a big one.
I beg your pardon?
You know, you also got wormholes.
No! I'm gonna have to call you back. We are still in the awkward part.
And I've seen some really weird stuff, especially with authors.
George R.R. Martin?
Pastor Phillips by Zach Putnam and David McKay. Mariposas by Adrian Carey. I'm almost there. Once Upon a Dream by Anthony Nyon. Prep Talk by Michael Wagner and Susan Beth Lehman. And last but not least, Feeding Fate by Guy Baker. Congratulations to all the official selections. And now for the awards. We're going to start with the Best Actor or Actress nominees. They include Kevin David Lynn for Monday, Rhoda Mitchell for Whoever Was Using This Bed, Tomas Jandor for Once Upon a Dream, Tom Alter for The Black Cat, and Tiffany Hines for Real Artists. And the award goes to Rhoda Mitchell of Whoever Was Using This Bed.
I want you to promise me something.
What?
Can I come over? I'll come right now. So, will you do it? If only I could see you. Would you like that?
I don't want to talk about it.
I can hear you. Talk to me.
We love each other, don't we? That's what counts, right?
Now for the Best Music Score nominees. They include Ethnophobia, Feeding Fate, Monday, Real Artists, and The Black Cat. And the award goes to The Black Cat.
I believe you have my cat.
I've never cared much for cats.
With the darkness round me growing,
and the moon behind my hat. You will soon have trouble knowing which is which and which is God.
Advait Nemlikar is the music director for that one. The Best Editing nominees include Ethnophobia, Feeding Fate, Monday, Real Artists, Whoever Was Using This Bed, and the Kenton Lead Blob. And the Best Editing award goes to Feeding Fate, Guy Baker. It's Guy Baker, Vicky Paul, and Gary Knowlton as editors.
Excuse me, is there a problem? He's busy right now.
Problem? Yeah, you could say that. I know you know what's going on here. I need to see him.
He is unavailable. I can get him a message for you when he's finished.
Best Cinematography nominees include Feeding Fate, Ethnophobia, Real Artists, Redemption, and The Black Cat. And the award goes to Sam Neff, Redemption.
And bubbles on the edges of my weak, barren space. In this moment. This one, right now, where I'm actually being honest with myself.
All right, some locals are winning, yes. Are we going too fast?
Are we going too fast? No.
Okay.
Catch your breath. Yeah. There's plenty of wine.
Yeah, good. And salad. Take some salad when you go too. There's lots of that. Best Story nominees include Real Artists, Monday, Ethnophobia, Once Upon a Dream, and Redemption. And the Best Story award goes to Monday, written by Den Pyle. Best Directing nominees include direction for Monday, Ethnophobia, Feeding Fate, Real Artists, Redemption, and The Black Cat. And the Best Directing award goes to Sam Neff, Redemption. Double trouble. Nice. The next award is a special award that was started a few years ago that is chosen by the local Sunrise Rotary Club, and it features films from local directors. The nominees for the Sunrise Rotary Award included The Kenton Lead Blob, That First Crush, Grip vs. Gaff, View Mastermind, Crown Point, Intercept, Redemption, Nikki, North of Nowhere, and Feeding Fate. And the award goes to Scott Ballard's North of Nowhere.
All I'm going to say is Plan A didn't work out.
I've been corrected, it's North and Nowhere. North of Nowhere is somewhere else. Thank you. I've been there, I know. Okay. There were 2 awards that were already announced on social media earlier this week, but we want to officially present them this evening. One is the Will Vinton Award for Best Animated Film, and that was Ethnophobia by Joan Jonga. Also, the Recology Sustainability Award for films with environmental themes goes to The Kitten Lead Blob by Zach Putnam and Richard Hershey.
The map is pretty scary. You know, you look at that map and you think people are in danger in this neighborhood.
This is Zach, and in his hand is a box of his neighbor's dirt.
It's a scary thing. I have 2 little children. The house I just purchased is in a blob of lead.
Okay.
Use your best Scottish accent.
I don't want to insult Janice. Grand Jury Prize nominees. Resist. Okay, the Grand Jury Prize nominees include Monday, Ethnophobia, Feeding Fate, Real Artists, Intercept, and The Kitten Lead Blob. And the Grand Jury Prize goes to Monday by Din Tai. Well, I can't tell you what an impressive array of films we had this year. Every year the bar keeps getting set higher. And so we appreciate the quality that you provide to keep making this festival grow in reputation.